All right, good evening. I'd like to call the September 5th, 2023 facilities meeting to order. Is there any public comment on tonight's agenda? All right, seeing none, I will turn it over to Mr. Lally.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. The first item on tonight's agenda is the emergency generator project. Just as an update, the emergency generators are being replaced in Ridge Park, WE, CE, and CES. They were all part of the 5-year capital improvement plan. So if you recall, there was a 48-week lead time on the generator. So when the board approved, we did order the generator. There was some work that was already done. Some concrete pads were put in. Some electric in the mechanical rooms has been moved in preparation that when the emergency generators themselves actually we receive them, we will do the install hopefully rather quickly, and everything will be done by the start of school next year. So it's just an update because it's a 5-year capital project, and you might see some work going on and wonder what it is. We are going to take the CES emergency generator and make that part of this project. So we pulled it from that because there's some contingencies with extra power that we have to look at and things that we want to put on the generator now that we're expanding classrooms and things. So it'll still get done, but that one will be a couple years out because we're going to do it as part of the renovation. Any questions? Okay, the second thing on our agenda this evening is the CES renovation, and it's just a very brief update. Dr. Christian and Mark and I and Rose Rock have met with GKO several times, and we went over, we're close to actually getting a budget for the board that you can review. The budget that we gave you is still what GKO believed, but this is a third-party budget so that we can actually get a number from a third-party person to say how much we think the project should cost. We're still confident it's going to be very much within the price range that we gave the board, but it's always nice to get that third-party number to see what they're thinking, and there's nothing that we actually missed. So what we're looking to do is, I believe October 2nd is the FMT meeting for next month. Speaking with Dr. Christian, we would like to move that meeting to the 9th and either do it after curriculum that evening. But once we have the actual budget, we could present it to you that evening so that you guys would then actually have we can move forward with the process. So we did put out a schedule that I shared with Dr. Christian and Mark, but it's tentative. Once we get firmed up the numbers and the board, then I will obviously share all that with the board too.
This is primarily so that they have additional time to get an accurate number as possible from the third party for budgeting purposes, right?
Correct.
So, we talked to GKO last week and we said the board knows they have the 2nd and the 9th, and it'll make the 9th a longer night, but if an extra week gives them more time to be more accurate, rather than adding a night to the board schedule. I'd rather not flip curriculum since we already have it scheduled, but just we'll just have HR and finance on the 2nd. We'll re-advertise for FMT. Everybody okay with that?
But we feel really good where we are. They're actually, the drawings are moving along and things are, coming along nicely. And so it's just a matter of now all the good stuff, right? All the financing and.
Joe, it is now, like, from your experience, is when we plan to go out to bid a good time?
It's a good time. We had a pretty good discussion at the table. Dr. Christian and Mark were with me about the timing, and they're not only my experiences and Dr. Christian's and Mark's, but GKO's experiences, and that we felt comfortable that, that December month that I think I was pushing for earlier is kind of a gray area because of the holiday season and who really is going to dive in and see that and want to spend, 2 solid weeks, 3 weeks of putting together that bid. That we felt the time frame we're working on now of doing that in the beginning of January with an approval at the February board meeting is a better option for all of us.
Plus, as a reminder, there's a mandatory advertising period of a minimum of 3 weeks.
3 consecutive weeks.
So that from the end of November to the end of the new year, since it's required, and in addition to that, Joe and GKO and everybody they'll get word on the street that, hey, this project's out there. So we feel, and from a timing perspective, I mean, construction costs are high right now, we know that, but it's still better than going out in April or May. That's the worst time.
Yeah, and again, we would like to use April, thinking positive is actually mobilizing some people for the summer work already. So, again, if everything falls into place, that would be a goal. But again, once we get the third-party budget, we'll bring everything to the board again, and you guys can, then make a decision. Any questions on the project? The next item is, so GKO, I think we all know, has done a lot of work. They actually did the original feasibility study on the school. And we now want to be able to come to the board, and we went to GKO and said, okay, what's your percentage to do the job? So Mark and Dr. Christian and I, we did some research to see the fees we paid for the high school with GKO were in 2012 and 13. We were at 6 1/3. So roughly at 6.34%. They're proposing for this project 6.75%. We felt that a half a point in 10 years was pretty good. So we want to bring that to the board with the hopes that at this month's board meeting, we would actually approve that. I think it's worth noting that we've already accumulated, Mark, I believe about $40,000 worth of bills, which customarily does not go towards that 6.75%. And GKO has said they will put it towards the 6.5%. So they'll add it towards the project. So I think it's just a little nicety on their part to say they're glad to be back working with us, and so they offered to do that. So I know it made Mark happy. So if it's okay with the board, I would write a motion for the board meeting that we approve that for this month's board meeting. Okay.
Numbers-wise, how does that compare to the middle school project?
To the middle school project was 5%. But again, I think the key there is knowing new construction versus renovation. A big, big difference.
Is there also
Size of the project too,
yeah.
like Dr. Chris said, is another, but yeah. So any more questions? All right, now we're moseying right to the fun part. I promise, Dr. Christian, I'll go super, super fast. So we have some pictures in a little PowerPoint of summer projects, if it's okay. I have a big mouth, so Bob will be able to record me. So we just wanted to highlight some of the things that we've done this summer, and this obviously is not everything. So there was extensive tree work done at PW outside the bridge in the LGI, where you can see trees were growing and going up against the buildings, termites, squirrels, all them things that we don't want. And some tree trimming, rolling up. You can kind of get some before and after vision of building and being on the roof. Not anymore. Same here where they're almost growing into these things. From a combination of outside contractors, our turf guys doing all this work. So then this is just another thing that we looked at this summer. Pressure washing, you had it before. The wall is not very attractive, and you can see here on the wall. So you get a before and after look. What's going on? Some of the other work that was done in front of LGI was just plants. Dr. Christian loves his flower show, so we do become the beneficiaries of that. So he does a nice job with his crew. There was concrete work that was also done this summer. You can see there was some keeping the concrete and some cracking the concrete. So that is the walkway from where it's going to the old cafeteria down towards the valley. So you can see here where the concrete has been placed, and now the back. So we also did some paving here that you guys may have seen. This was the parking spot out front. One of our members was kind enough to mention that was actually had grown and lifted the curb, so the tree was curved. That was compared to curb. Outside of Dr. Christian's office, right here, where the kids play, this area, believe it or not, right here, some of you remember years and years ago was free. So there was always like a little divot in it. So we did that, and then on the, what they'll say is the Flowertown roadside, where you ride your bikes and there's a bike rack. Keep both of these sides. Safety hazards plus they were going to take on board. So with that, you can see our turf crew did this. This is the loading dock out back. Pretty You can see the concrete was cracked. The bumper for the trucks was. They went ahead and they patched the concrete. We had to skin the front. And just some work done by our own internal staff. Colonial Elementary, the walking path, so back in the rear of the building, when you go around Plymouth, then in the playground towards the red ground side, you can get washed out. Playground, and get a better idea. So Parent Shop in Elementary, he put this up. It was actually a banner that we had there. See it there. But that was a better look for Parent Shop, and we did put the banner up. They were very kind, but with that, very inexpensive. But in the front of the school, again, just to highlight some more things. Actually, does. So again, wrapping up what the turf guys trying to do is again, like, so their trailer, set basic maintenance on all of our equipment that we while we're in the off season, try and get to as much as I can. Put the bleachers at the stadium on a before and after. So we're going to go home and away rather. This year we did the home side. Next year we do the away side. But unless you see the picture, you probably won't remember or think they need. So again, just another thing for the turf crew that we're trying to highlight. Mobile. Yeah, that trailer does not. So and then again, obviously, just figured this is a great snapshot of the work they do that, you know, we have come to just accept. They really do a nice job. So with that, they did do a couple installations. Gaga courts have taken off in the district. So what we experienced right away was the Gaga yes, obviously with rains, but so we actually have about 2 tons of stone after we cut out the area, pouring for it. So now when it rains and the rain's heavy, children yes. So this is So I'll touch on floor care really quick again, because these are all really kind of redundant, but again, I think it's worth highlighting that I'm seeing a team of people on their hands and knees and actually getting wax off baseboards and code base, prep the school so that they can then strip the floor. You can end up looking at this, kind of like the end process that I think is kind of say, and then get into the other things as you go. You can roll more floor care again, just stripping. Don't know if you can see in this picture. This floor is stripped and then wax. You have the strip side, see how it darkens a little with wax on it. So that's why it's important that you just wax over wax. So again, just looking at the learning cottages at Ridge Park and just showing the same thing. Learning cottage, clean, stack it up. So, Colonial, this is the high school. So again, I thought there's some great shots with some natural light. Show how well the floors came out. This is us prepping to do the gym floor. It's my man Reggie over there. Again, our people do a good job maintaining it. Get it so that won't have to wax it. Use an outside contractor to do the system. That's because of our wall. If we were to do it alone, we would. And that warranty is like. Again, this is the science wing at PW, just looking at 2 different classrooms. Floors. Gym floor at the middle school, you can see great. Now you're looking at the main lobby. Now, all this work and all this new terrazzo, I can't say enough good things about the middle school, because last year they were kind of rushed, open school, hurry up, let's go, we got to get in. Summer hits and don't get too ingrained because we still got cleanup. This year they really had a lot of time to spend there. These are just some more shots. doing just the simple stuff again, that this also then carries over to all the carpet. Right? So there's cleaning of the carpet and inside every shampoo of carpet now is segments. So all the carpet, furniture getting stacked up. See the room then getting down here is empty, and then we're trying to get an idea of what happens. There's more chemo on the regular floor machine in the hallway, pitched out there. Then you go to your detail point, right? So again, just highlighting some of the things that we did in the summer. This includes obviously lots of activities. Fortunately, at least the good news is. So again, Ridge Park cafeteria tables, all cafeteria tables over the summer. All cafeterias. So that's the best way for us to actually put so. Ridge Park, we took on a big project. I don't know if anybody recalled earlier in the summer, since we didn't have a program there this year. We actually went and took the doors. The doors are down here in this color, but it's hard to see at the bottom of these FR doors with fiberglass reinforced plastic. Colors will fade. Here you're looking at the primer. Very difficult flat scratch. And here you're looking at. Canopy was the same thing. The entire canopy that goes right from the building. I-beams were rusted, had rust, paint chipping up from the ceiling. Up here, we pressure washed everything. Came out really nice. The next one. So they did the columns and everything. Everything there is nice. Plan on moving to white one. So some maintenance projects that we did. This is the music room. We just replaced, there was some wood. We actually made it more fire rated in the music in the W. We actually did frame, so we drywall. You can see the sidewalls also had it. So basically, we just took all the wood that shouldn't have been in the room, pulled it off of the back drywall in there. So that was the project that. PW, we went down and we installed the in the robotics they had their laser printer that we had to do. We had to actually block the room off for them because they want to be able to use the laser for having it in. So again, we built the wall, doors, the standing doors, and working on the product. Kind of see everything that went along with that project. And then in the tech room, we also did CNC press for them, all the installation with all the flex stuff, all their hard help. This is the LGI room. One of the things with LGI is how do we store everything where it goes down there. Has a bad habit of looking to shove place to put anything. So I spoke with Rex and we talked about those closets. So we built these two closets in there. They're double doors. So one can actually hold cheerleading mats. Now, next screen, trying to see how the room plays out better. Environment. You're going to keep going. I'm wrong with the stadium. We had some issues up here with water getting in and the siding being bad. So they replaced all the wood that went into the garage of the stadium. And you're kind of getting the whole idea of everything done, new siding, new doors, doors painted, done. Again, just want to highlight the skill set. Fortunately. Whitemarsh Elementary, we took on modeling office. I apologize. Still had a ton of core pictures. I think we all remember how it looked. Old brown paneling. But you can kind of see the front office here. We had the black frame and we made it red. Going to the inside. And then you can start to see where we took all the paneling off. All the walls were laminated, drywall. Then actually they built in, cabinets came in, but if you go back a little more and more. So this sequence here was key because they might use that in pictures or things they want for the kids. So this was something that carpenters internally made for them. Then you get to see the walls getting done. Cabinets going in. Go down to the maintenance shop and you see our guys make all the counters. So all the countertops are built internally and there they are. You can see how they look and how good all the countertops look. And again, just promoting, we have a really good skill set. So, the old nail slots, so that kind of gives you an idea of the old paneling, what the walls look like. New ones. stop by White Marsh Elementary project. Besides the floor abatement and the carpet. Project, guys, and now you're kind of looking at final layout of and the signs that we had put on the wall. So we did use GKO just for color schemes. So we didn't just have gosh, how they wanted. That's that project. So now we're going to Colonial Elementary. We moved a music room into one of the modulars, so we had to soundproof the wall. So all you're seeing here again is us bringing down the wall, us using sound attenuator, drywall, rocking it, and when you're all said and done, here. And now the whole wall, that's just the back side of the wall. Again. And now the wall's all gone. Back here. It's just another wall over the wall so that we can buffer sound. This is again just a project for Bridge Park of installing in the nurse's office. Again, these things happen for privacy reasons. Put a door in there, park, and then then they also had a closet area that was pretty large that we made one side of it. Testing it. So we actually filled in off finish. UWHS library, same thing, in the LGI room of the library years ago. Or was there was a double door that led you in the back of the library. When we closed that off, educational room, so that for them. Doors, do safe doors. Last one, chalkboard converter. So you can see this. We're almost done, but there are a handful of people that, believe it or not, still like blackboards. Haven't taken them away. About 95. That's just the process. Safety and security, just want to highlight that all fire panels in all the schools were inspected. All of the AEDs were inspected, and not only that, you have to buy new pads and batteries and have the life inspected. So they were replaced along with all the fire extinguishers. You can see 278 fire extinguishers inspected and tested. That includes the extinguishers that are on all homes. So, again, kind of just highlighting the upgrade that we did on the security cameras. So the exterior cameras, we placed a total of 28 cameras on PW, and that includes most of our exterior cameras. And we replaced them with multi-lens camera. So PTZ was zoom, and we all know that would go on the slope 4. And when we came back, it was something cameras now are multi-lens, so they have 4 lenses of all the spots. Now you would actually follow someone. It's a better security. As part of the grant fund that we received, this was something that everybody recommended was have 2 handles on the outside doors. Barring actually trap people inside, chain on. So we actually took the second handle off the doors. And you see 2 handles on 1 handle with a flat metal bar. There are other things we do with the grant. We're going to thank the school district for this beautiful vehicle that you can see our 2 to 10 person driving around in. Again, we did put an actual spotlight on the truck. Can't see in this one, and there is a beacon light. So preventative maintenance, we're almost there, we're almost home. Unit ventilators, we all know indoor air quality, how important it is. You guys actually getting inside classroom units, what it looks like when they take out the box, it has the blower motor and everything in it, they can get behind it and clean it. This is really important, I think, for everyone to see, because I mentioned some CO2 filters. They're for just those 2 units. So the units on top of PW's gym had 32 filters per unit. They had 16 pre-filters. They had 16 of them. So you're looking at every quarterly, changing those filters and getting them done. Rooftop is a lot of work. Roof drains, again, take a look at the lid and the drain situation. You get all the lights and everything up on the roof again. Try and do all the maintenance we can up on the rooftop. Does include the wall stands still. We also changed the light bulbs in the PW auditorium and the C room. See from like a metal halide. All changed every socket. Not at all LED bulbs. Bulbs. This is a picture of Melvin, our electrician, up on the lift that we rented. This is the contracted rooftops units, part of a 5-year capital project. So again, just trying to give you an idea of not necessarily us, but the project. And then with that project, to adapt to the new refrigerator, all the indoor units had to get oils, actually put in new condensate lines. Okay. Foundation sponsored a project that was right next door for Rose and the 4th and 5th graders. So it's hard to see again because we didn't break down with 4 pictures. There was lines of shelving all on these walls before. So now you put them in that picture. You can see there's cabinetry and there's an open space and that's a light over. So, you know, something that the Scott worked with.
Hey, Joe, everybody, thank you. These little things are as important as the big projects. And so just wanted to kudos to you and the team. I know firsthand for the LGI, the renovations that were done in there with the closets, the cheer team is very excited. They are, like, it was funny. I walked in and they were so excited, rolling mats. It's like, look, we got closets. So they're happy about their closets.
Yeah, I did. I apologize because I felt like I should have done this earlier to show what they do over the summer. So it was really my negligence not showing. I know Dr. Christian knows and appreciates it and walks the buildings, but I thought it was important to get to show it to the board.
So did they take any vacation this summer? Because that's a lot of work. I mean, that's amazing.
They did.
It's amazing.
They really
Yeah,
did.
please thank them. I mean, that the fact that we can do that all internally ourselves is incredible.
Absolutely. I will. Thank you.
And just to add that, and I know you know this and Dr. Christian knows this, but this is why we've kept our maintenance and facilities people in-house, because they do such incredible work. And a lot of districts have outsourced that work, and our guys are just incredible. And,
I agree.
Just thank them all from
will.
all of us.
Yep. We're very fortunate. Thank you.
I think we should mention too that Joe, if you noticed during each of the slides, Joe knows every employee's name like immediately, and that's not a show. If you walk around the district, he knows every single one of our employees. And there were 2 slides in there, but they did all of that extra work in addition to our main concern, which is just getting the buildings ready to open and clean. I was upstairs, I guess, 2 or 3 weeks ago. I forget who it was. One of our custodians had the depressed look on his face because he had just finished one of the hallways. And one of our employees decided to drag something down the center of the hallway and it wasn't dry yet. And he just kind of, I don't know, you remember that commercial where the guy spells the Chiefs incorrectly, the Snickers commercial? And they go, who are the chefs? And he just looked at the hallway. He's like, really? I just finished that hallway. But it was clean the next day and ready to go. So it was not malice aforethought, but Joe and Nate do a great job supervising a strong crew. And Gene does absolutely treat every outside blade of grass as if it's a blade of grass in his backyard.
Is it possible to do like a little goodie tray for each building facilities, just for is it possible to do like a goodie tray or something for each building?
Absolutely.
But on behalf of the board, because like,
Yeah, we'll take care of them. Absolutely.
Okay,
They really know them.
okay. But I mean, that was just
At the end of this
amazing
week, they
to
might
see.
appreciate like a snow cone machine or something like that.
Yeah, this week, for
Maybe
sure.
we'll talk to Lori.
But just something on behalf of the board.
Joe, all of this is wonderful. Just one question, and I'm not. But no, the ugly looking thing out on the football stadium, we talked about upgrading internally? The Quonset hut kind of looking. Yeah. What? Oh, it's gone? Okay. Okay, well, I know you talked about wanting to keep it. It was not worth keeping. Oh, yay. Okay, but you mentioned that you wanted it, so it'll be new. So it's there to put a new Quonset hut. Okay. Or something a little better looking, maybe? Okay, thank you. I keep driving by and seeing the beautiful grass, but I hadn't noticed that that was missing, and I knew you wanted to save it, so.
Mm. 130 students. I use the term ineligible, but that means that they live within the 1.5 miles as required for transportation. And then we have 702 students that have opted out for transportation. So this year, as of this morning, when I talked to Christopher Brown and Sandy, 5,660 students are being transported. We are doing that through 75 routes, 71 of which are covered by contracted carriers, CTC, if I abbreviation. We have 2 drivers within Colonial School District as employees, and obviously that shows we are short 2 drivers right now. Now that deficit is represented at the elementary buildings, Plymouth Elementary and Ridge Park, and we are currently doubling 2 routes. We are begging, borrowing, stealing, and pressuring every contractor we have for more routes, more drivers. We are getting creative with even trying to bring in new drivers for Colonial School District. As the board knows, we do budget for 4 and we currently have 2, so we are trying to get more if we could on our own roles. Non-public school students, just to give the board an idea of the other pressures that Christopher Brown and Sandy in the Transportation Department have to deal with is that we service 93 additional non-public schools, transporting 617 kids. So not just our own students coming to public schools, but going to 93 other buildings outside the district up to the 10 miles outside. So it's magic what they can do with the routes, and we understand there are concerns right now with transportations and times, and we're trying to get as many drivers as we can to help service more routes. Currently, right now we have First Student, the Montgomery County Intermediate Unit, SAG, Superior Bus Services, and Wolfington Bus Company all actively in the mix. If we can add more, we will add more. We are constantly on the phone with additional bus companies throughout the state or in the county to, what do you have available? Give us something. Take one of our routes. We will take as whatever we can to make sure we improve our routes and our times and our service for our students. So I just want to give the board a quick idea as to where we're standing for sorry, lost my spot.
Mark, is that total number of routes up from last year, or
No,
is it
that is
just okay?
It is up from last year. We were at 71 or 72 last year. In the heyday before COVID, I think we were at 84 or 85. So obviously, that's having a large impact. It's really pushing Christopher and Sandy and transportation to get creative with the routes. We try to put as many students on a bus as possible. We try to keep the routes as short as possible, but we're constricted with the number of drivers. So if we can get more drivers, we will decrease route times. We will, decrease or increase efficiency as we can or as possible. But again, it's that number of drivers that's the constricting factor here. All right, and that is it for the transportation update. Any questions?
Just, it's somewhat exacerbated to not only the driver challenge, which has been with us for several years, but as I'm sure the board is aware, you have major construction projects going on Ridge Pike, which are going to be with us for quite some time. Butler Pike, which reopened, but it was right around the bend there as you're going towards Narcissa Road, was a mess for a while. And then you also have Cars Lane leading into Ridge Park, where Aqua America is putting in a new water main. And Joe and Tim and Mark worked with Plymouth Police so we could, because this morning, if they didn't move their trucks, you were not getting a bus and a car down, going opposite directions. You were not getting kids into school, but fortunately they moved their stuff onto, what is that little road right there? I think it's called Little Road. Yeah, that little road.
It's even littler now, yeah.
Yeah. So, first student says they have 8 to 10 drivers in training. Hopefully, they are doing a thorough but rigorous training, expedited training, but still meeting all the standards. And we've taught, in addition to the ones Mark mentioned, we've called a couple, 3 or 4 more companies as recently as last Thursday or Friday, just to see if they can pick up 1, 2, 3 runs. Philly Transit, that other company.
There's a Transportation Services America out in Souderton,
Landmark.
Philly Transit, and then
And we're not alone. There are many districts doing in the same boat, talking to my colleagues.
Joe, I heard Saturday night that somebody mentioned that Plymouth Road's going to be repaved soon.
What word?
Plymouth Road in front of Plymouth Elementary School?
That they're due to their final. I will check.
They were
I
out
heard
there
that
about a
from
month ago.
somebody in the construction business, so.
Somebody that probably knows.
So I don't know, maybe you should find out. He was kind of amazed that it hadn't been done before school started.
We would prefer they wait until spring break or winter break or June.
Except if, yeah, I don't know how much control we have over I think it's a PennDOT road. So, good luck, Joe.
We have no control.
Would,
Find out. I know that you're talking about there also parish.
yeah,
Oh, really?
in Conshohocken, yeah.
When we do a double run, Christopher and Sandy take a look at where the closest routes are so that a bus, and we try to take a bus that has a high school run, not give it a middle school run, so it can do the high school run, get over to the elementary. It sounds really easy on paper, but you're talking about K through 3 kids that you're trying to get out at the end of the day onto the bus. It's their first day, plus a few new drivers. If they make a couple wrong turns, life is what happens despite our plans. So today's double run at Plymouth, I think, ran about 15 minutes late. We sent out a Connect Ed. I talked to Christopher and Mark, and they said the driver just got delayed a little bit. Maybe it was 20 minutes late, but we'll get it rectified. Ideally, we don't want to have to double back, but if we do, we take addresses that are in close proximity. They go out, zip around, get those dropped off, and then come back. And if that bus is delayed, we use our communication systems to try to get, even if 2 other buses have to come back, and we split the run just to get the kids home in a more safe but expeditious manner.
And then obviously, if we have any new drivers that come on, double runs will be the first thing eliminated.
I know in years past, we have asked parents to opt out of busing, and we didn't do that this year. Would that help at all for parents whose kids just aren't taking the bus regardless, so that they're not driving by houses or stops that might all year not have students? Will
It
that
could.
help?
We didn't do a formal survey, but we do have people who have opted out and informed us. So, but we could. We're doing bus counts this week, and we'll do them next week when the kindergarten gets started. So then, if we're seeing a trend and we have to do one, we will.
So if parents didn't opt out, like formally, should they, like, oh, the bus is stopping for my daughter, she's the only one at the stop. Should I let someone know so that they don't have to
I think
take that extra time?
I think the Christopher and Sandy want to do counts this week first with first student, and we'll
Okay.
sit down with them, and then we'll put something out.
Okay, sounds good.
Right, usually within the first 3 weeks is where Sandy and Christopher really get to evaluate ridership, bus routes, and that's where they can, drill down onto the numbers and see what they can do.
I would expect that probably less would opt out this year, only because a lot of people are going back into the office that were not. So this year,
I would agree.
a lot of people are starting to go back into the office, so they need the bus.
Right, or even if they're going back like 3 days a week.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And we can't get into that. Like, we've eliminated a lot of those, like the double stops and, Monday, Wednesday, Friday here, Tuesday, Thursday. We're like, no, we need one address. And that's one area where we have tightened up significantly in the past few years.
Yeah, even with the summer programs, we tighten that up as well. So that's it for the transportation update. If there's no more questions.
Any more questions or comments? Any public comment? All right, this meeting's adjourned. Thank you. We want to move right into, we're doing HR? What are we doing now? Okay, Sue?
Mr. Lally, are you leaving? Have you been here since 4 a.m. or what? 5:30, okay. Leave, Joe. All right, now we'll start our HR committee meeting. Are there any public comments on tonight's agenda? All right, I'll turn it over to Mrs. O'Reilly.
I don't have do I have an active mic? Okay, there we go. All right, perfect. Thank you, Mrs. Moore. I wanted to share with the board and our staff and certainly the community some exciting things that the Human Resources Department is working on. Some things are already in place and some things we'll be working on throughout the school year. We have begun the implementation process of an electronic onboarding system with a software system called PowerSchool. Most of the training of the HR staff is completed. We've been doing that all summer long, and we expect to be up and running and active with that over the next couple of months. And this will permit all of our new hired employees to be issued a link upon hire via email, in which they will then enroll all of their new hire paperwork, including health benefits, online. The only one element that the government requires us to meet with an employee in person is an I-9, so that we can certainly view their credentials in person, but this will save a lot of time and allow the employee to complete this process before they start their employment, expediting their hiring, and then also our department can get them hired and in place in a more expedited way. We are going to be offering retirement seminars to our staff. They will take place after school. Some of our providers will come in and they will be educating our staff on the Pennsylvania School Employees Retirement System, better known as PESERS, but also providing them with information on how to supplement their retirement with participation in 403B, also a tax sheltered annuity, and 457 plans, again, a tax deferred annuity, so that they can determine and make very good decisions on how to plan for their retirement well in advance. And it's my understanding that this is a much needed service that staff has been hoping for quite some time. So we're happy to be able to be planning those, and they will be offered throughout the school year. One other item that we're working on is via Vector Solutions, which is a new software system with the district. And we started this last spring with the district, where we did some online training, and a link gets sent to each staff member. They're required to complete the training. It's electronically submitted via Vector Solution, and we're able to keep a tracking system electronically for every employee. They've already completed Title IX training, as well as workplace harassment training and safety training. And also we've utilized it for Act 126, which you may very well know as mandated reporter, which the state requires every employee to complete every 5 years. We will also then begin implementing this system with online employee handbooks, where employees are able to electronically confirm receipt of those handbooks, and some of the necessary board policies that pertain to employees and their workplace expectations, and keeping them abreast on what it is that they need to be aware of in the workplace. And that's really my update of information I wanted to share with the board. Is there any questions about any of those items? No? Okay, that concludes my report.
Okay.
Thank you.
Are there any?
Thank you.
Are there any comments or public comments on the, on anything? Anything HR related? Nope. Okay, then this meeting is adjourned and then we can move on. Thanks, Michelle.
Since Rick had to leave, I will call the finance meeting to order. Is there any public comment on tonight's agenda? All right, seeing none, I will turn it over to you, Mark.
I turn the microphone on. 3 items on the agenda tonight. One is informational. As the board knows, last Tuesday on the 29th, the school district went out to the market for the 2023 CES bonds in the amount of $15 million. Results were very favorable, much more favorable than we'd expected. The bonds were placed on the market Tuesday morning, and essentially the bonds were sold at a premium. That means buyers in the bond market were willing to pay more for the coupon price of $15 million than what the actual dollar for dollar value was. So at the end of the day, we sold $15 million worth of bonds for $15,634,243. So there was a surplus in how much we were able to generate. With that additional $634,000 in premium, we were able to pay all of the associated costs, legal fees, bond counsel, financing team, everything. The total cost for $237,550, netting in a total cash deposit of $15,396,693. So for $15 million in debt that was issued, we were pocketing almost $15.4 million. Just like as if you were to sell a house, you sign the agreement, but then settlement isn't usually for another 30 days. So we'll receive that cash at the end of September of 2023, at which point we'll start investing it, just like how we've discussed in previous meetings. Right now, we're looking at about 5.3, 5.4% yield. And when we had presented to the board the investment strategy, that was based off of 3.5. So we are going to do very well. I'll come up with a much more in-depth analysis once the money comes in, and we can lock in whatever rate we can get with our depositories. But I wanted to bring that just to the attention of the board and say how well that went. The next item on the agenda is a internal lease for the Chromebooks for the 23-24 school year. I know a couple of the board members were privy to this type of internal lease in prior years. Essentially, in lieu of going with a financing agency, a third party that could charge us anywhere from 8.5% to 10% to finance the purchase of $601,000 worth of Chromebook, we're going to use the cash in the capital reserve fund to pay that invoice, and then the general fund will reimburse the capital reserve fund once a year for 4 years, because that's the life of these Chromebooks, at a rate of 5.5%. Now, we chose 5.5% because that's the current Fed borrow rate, or their current overnight rate. And I thought that was the most above board rate to use. Obviously, if we wanted to go out to a third party, like a third party financing agency, it'd be anywhere from 8.5% to 10%. And why give somebody else our money when we could move it between the two funds? So with the committee's approval, we'll just move that forward, and we'll process that invoice for the Chromebooks for 23-24. And those Chromebooks are to be used for the 5th and 9th graders. That is our cycle. We give them to the 5th and 9th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th. They'll use it for the 4 years, and then they'll get new ones when the 5th graders become 9th graders. That's why we have a 4-year repayment plan. All right. Any questions on either of those agenda items? I apologize for going through them too fast. Okay, budget update. I know this is everybody gets really excited to look at. We'll start with the local revenue. Local revenues came in at just about $74 million, which is 59.83% of budget. A little lower than prior year. The prior year actual at 63.78%. That is solely due to a timing issue. We had about $5.1 million that was collected by our tax collecting agencies on September 1st. So if we were to add the $5 million in tax receipts to that $74 million, it brings us up to about $79 million. We're right in the ballpark with last year's 63.78%. So again, local tax revenues and other local revenues are coming in very strong. It's the second month of collections, and we expect that to continue not just within budget, but also with prior year. State revenue, I'm sure as everybody knows, everybody's happy to see that the state did finally approved the appropriation bills where to allow the state, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, to start dishing out the subsidy money. The school district received their first payment for special education as well as basic education, as well as the property tax reduction program. So we're at 11.07% in state revenue compared to last year's 11.3%, representing 2.8 million in the current year. So again, very consistent and in line with expectations. Federal revenue, again, we continue to talk about COVID and the running out of that revenue. This was based off of reimbursements, and you can see our expenditures related to federal revenue were a little bit on the lower side, $390,890. While that does seem a little on the lower side, we do expect that to come within expectations as well as budget for the entire year. So for revenue as of August 2023, we are sitting at $77,216,769, 51% of budget. Again, predominantly driven by that $5 million deposit that came in on September 1st. We expect that to come back more in line by the end of September, if not October. On the flip side of it, we are moving down to our wages and expenditures. Again, with it being the first 2 months, July and August, for the school year, wages are in line with the contracted amounts per the bargaining unit agreements, as well as the ESY program and the Summer Academy and the Summer Blast. The Summer Academy was expanded this year, so we did have an uptick in salaries, but that is a program that is funded by the COVID relief money that we've received. Benefits are in line with the associated wages and expectations for the month. There's a small tick in the insurance rates, but as we discussed about during the budget prep, the 7% increase in insurance rate is finally feeling the effect of it through our current numbers. But again, well within expectation. 300 object is our professional services. Again, we spent a lot of time during the summer providing training, not just to regular instruction, but also to special education. The school district operates what's called a cost service plan with the Montgomery County Intermediate Unit. This allows the MCIU to provide additional services to the district within the special education department. It's $1.2 million in service plan every year. We happen to pay our first installment, the first 25%, during the month of August, while in prior year we paid it in the following September. Again, it's a timing issue of just when we disperse the cash, and that's why you see such a large increase on the 300 services. In the 400 line item, again, as Mr. Lally showed, all the investment we're putting in the district with repairs and in maintenance throughout, they're causing the $359,934, a little lower than prior year, due to the fact that we are in the process of, we will be making the Chromebook lease repayment that we just basically talked about. We're a little in arrears on that, little cart before the horse, but once we make that first payment, that number will come back in line with expectation, as well as prior year. Other services in the 500, again, this is our payments to the VOTEC, which we've discussed at length over the increase in VOTEC tuition, as well as ESY payments and summer transportation. The Summer Academy, as well as the ESY program, summer transportation, hit our 500. Supplies is compared to prior year, and as expected for this time of year, preparing for the upcoming school year. 700 in equipment. We've talked about the new PA systems at Conshohocken Elementary and Ridge Park, which is the driving factor in our 700 line item of $294,722. And then 800, we are making our required interest payments, as well as various dues and fees for professional services across the district. So as it stands right now, we're at 44.24% of budget on expenditures of, I apologize, we're at 6.85% of expenditures, $10,353,299 on $151 million in budget. Again, this is the first 2 months of the year, a lot of ramping up, processing payrolls, getting the benefits in line. The auditors were here this past week or last week doing a lot of preliminary tests and controls. Everything went well. They'll be back at the beginning of October to start really looking at the numbers and helping us compile our financial statement. Just because I like to get the visuals, we move down to our expenditure analysis. Again, we've talked about wages and benefits. Wages, again, are increasing due to our contractually obligated agreements with all different bargaining units. Professional services are up to $418,000, which, as we talked about, was due to the special education and the MCIU cost plan. Again, these are just more visuals if the board wants to take some light reading over the weekend, but I always feel it's better to put pictures to the numbers. Obviously, the revenues, we talked about the current real estate taxes. We're expecting that additional $5 million that came in beginning of September. That should smooth out that first line item, which is why it's shown a deficit of $1.2 million. Transfer taxes as well as interim taxes. As we've talked about, we're starting to see a downturn in the turnover of real estate within the district. We'll continue to monitor transfer taxes and interims, and we'll just see how the rest of the commercial market plays out throughout the rest of the year. Act 511 earned income taxes remain strong due to our strong population base of workers within our district. We're very thankful for. Amusement taxes did tick up about $45,000. I know it doesn't seem significant, but it is a 346% increase over prior year, because we actually reached out to the amusement tax collector that oversees that line item, and we identified a couple businesses within our district that need to come on the rolls as far as amusement taxes go. So we're working closely with them, and we expect that line item to remain strong for the remainder of the year. Expenditures, when we look at it from a function, where are we investing our dollars? Instructional, support services, community services. You can see, again, it's the beginning of the year. We're sitting at about 25.2% in instructional because of this ramp up of moving into buying supplies, summer programs, a lot of training and development. And again, that's just an FYI as to, where are we spending our dollars from a natural classification standpoint. Any questions on the current August 2023 budget status? Okay. That is it for the Finance Committee agenda then. If anybody has any questions.
Anybody have any questions? No? Thank you. It looks like we're off to a great start. Any public comment this evening? All right, seeing none, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
7:02.